bad.
Okay, so if you look at your calculator, SIN is the sign. I know it looks like sin, so if you said sin, it would be fine. I would remember. Okay, O stands for opposite. The opposite side, remember, opposite that angle. H stands for hypotenuse. Okay? CAH, caught another hippie. C is cosine, so if you look at your calculator, there's the cos button, COS. A stands for adjacent. H stands for hypotenuse. So remember, there's that adjacent side and the hypotenuse side. Now, TOA, T stands for tan. There's the tan button. T stands for tan. O is opposite. A is adjacent. Notice there's no hypotenuse on the tangent. So the first thing, when we play that song in a little bit and it goes, no hypotenuse, that makes it tan, then you're going to remember every time you see there's no hypotenuse, it's tan. Every time it's tangent. So this helps us remember if it's sine, cosine, or tangent. So Katoa, some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to go over the trigonometry ratios. Now, a ratio is a fraction. A ratio means division, fraction, you write one number over the other. So all trigonometry is ratios. It's one number over the other. Adjacent over hypotenuse, or opposite over hypotenuse, or opposite over adjacent. So if I have a triangle, and I want the sine ratio of angle A, sine is the so part, SOHCAHTOA, some old hippie. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So if I look at angle A, do you guys see that little a is my side opposite? And little c is my hypotenuse. That's just the ratio. So like if this had a number 4 and this had a number 5, my ratio would be 4 over 5. Okay. And we're going to do some problems, so don't stress if it looks scary so far. Okay. Cosine, like you're my
No.
cousin.
No, I'm good.
Adjacent over hypotenuse. Caught another hippie. So, yeah. So, notice if I have this angle, it's made up of two sides, the adjacent side and the hypotenuse side. Cosine is always adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay? Then, tangent is the only one where there's no hypotenuse. No hypotenuse. That makes it tan. So, tangent, you do not use the hypotenuse. It's opposite, tripping on acid, opposite over adjacent. So, you have to do opposite over adjacent. Okay, so, everybody look up here. We're going to try to write a ratio so you can see how this works. Oh, whoops, I went too far. Okay, so I want to write the sine, cosine, and tangent ratios for angle A. So I'm going to do sine of angle A, cosine of angle A, tan of angle A. So, some old hippie caught another hippie doing what? Tripping on acid. So bad. Okay, so sine of angle A. Here's angle A. Sine is what over what? Opposite over hypotenuse. What's opposite angle A? 7. What's the hypotenuse? 25. That's my sine ratio. That's it. A ratio is just a fraction. Okay, cosine caught another hippie. What is it? What over what?
Adjacent over hypotenuse.
Adjacent over hypotenuse. 24 over 25. Good. Tan, no hypotenuse. Do not be using that hypotenuse, but you have to do opposite over adjacent. 7 over 24. Not 25, because tangent is no hypotenuse. Never. Okay, now, we're not going to spend a lot of time on just this ratio part because we actually need to know how to apply trigonometry. How does it apply? What do I need it for?
I have $1.
So, let's start learning how to apply trigonometry. So, I'm going to do a few examples and we'll look at your assignment, okay? So, watch me first. So, we've got some rules. If x is up high, that's how you know to multiply. If x is on bottom, we will divide. So, I set this part up for you as a crutch, and it's on this assignment, but I'm gradually going to take this stuff away because you're going to have to be able to just look at a triangle and say, oh, I need to use tangent because there's no hypotenuse, and be able to do it. But this is a crutch to help us determine whether to use sine, cosine, or tangent. So the circle with a line through it is called theta. That's always the angle. So if you look at this triangle, what's my angle? 64. So I'm going to put 64 next to theta. Now I'm going to fill in. So you guys just watch me first, and then we'll do some, I promise. The adjacent, the opposite, and the hypotenuse side. So if I look at this, I always start with the hypotenuse because it's easier for me. Is there a hypotenuse? No hypotenuse. Okay. What is the opposite side? X. What's the adjacent side? 7. So remember, an angle is always made up of an adjacent side and a hypotenuse side. You guys okay so far? Okay, so when I look at this, some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. I know there's no hypotenuse. Which one of these trig functions has no hypotenuse? TOA. What's T stand for? Tan. This is how we write the trig ratios out. I'm going to say tan, then you put the angle always right next to the sine, cosine, or tangent. So my angle is what? 64 equals. Now this is the important part. I have to put O over A. So notice my O is X. My A, tripping on acid. My A is 7. If X is up high, that's how we know to multiply. Do you see how X is up high? Okay, now I'm going to show you how to type it in your calculator. So everybody get your calculators out. If X is up high, we multiply. You always start with this number by the X. What's this number by the X? 7. So in your calculator, you're going to do 7 times, because X is up high, that's how we know to multiply, 7 times tan. Make sure you hit the tan button next to the division. And what was that angle? Tan 64. Now, when I type in 64, I know it starts with a parenthesis. You don't have to close the parenthesis. You can just hit enter. That right there, 14.4, what that gave me was the length of that side. 14.4. So it gave me the length of that side. It's not a special right triangle. It's not a 30, 60, 90, so I can't say, oh, it's 7 radical 3 or whatever. We use trigonometry to find the length of that side. So let's do a couple more, and then we'll look at your assignment. Now, when you have 2 angles, you get to pick. You get to pick for theta. Which one you guys want to pick, 23 or 67? 67. 67. Okay, I'll pick 67. All right, what's my hypotenuse? No hypotenuse. That makes it 10. Okay, we're using 67, not 23. So what's this side right here? That's the opposite. What's this side? The A, the adjacent. So again, there's no hypotenuse, so I know it's tan. I write tan. What goes next to tan? 67, the theta. You have to put O over A, tripping on acid. What's my O? 6. What's my A? Uh-oh, X is on bottom this time. If X is on bottom, you divide. You have to type this number over here by the X first. What's my number? 6. So we're going to do 6 divided by, what do I push now? Tan 67. Hit enter, and the length of my side is 2.5.
Wait, so does it have the hypotenuse when you just do like sin?
Either sine or cosine, depending. Let me do one more so we know. 2.5. Because you have to put it in the order of the ratio. So this says opposite over adjacent. So I have to put O on top of A. Okay. This I have to put A on top of H. This one I have to put O on top of H.
So you get it from one of those.
Yes. So SOHCAHTOA. That's why it's so important to remember how to spell it. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Let me do one more.
Was it his acid?
Probably. Okay. What's my theta on this one? What's 35? This time I have a hypotenuse. What is it? 20. What's this side? Is that the opposite side or the adjacent side? Opposite. I do not have an adjacent. So, no adjacent, I've got an opposite and a hypotenuse. Which one of those has an opposite and a hypotenuse?
Sin.
Sin. S stands for sin. I put sin. What do I write next to the sin?
Over hypotenuse.
35 angle. And then, yes, you do O over H. So, what over what?
X over.
X over 20. X is up high. That's how we know to multiply. What number do I type in the calculator first? 20. 20 times sin 35. 20 times sin 35.
11.5.
Yes. So you want to try a few on your assignment?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no. Okay. We'll do like this first row.
Cool.
So first, this is what I do, but I'm a real weirdo. I fill all of this in first, and then I just go back and do all the calculator work. But okay, so the circle with the line through it's called theta. What do we put in place of theta? No,
The
angle. So on number 1, what's our angle?
32.
What's our angle on number 2? 55. Do you see how I just kind of go through and fill it out? Just, I don't know, it saves me time. I see this one's 55, I see that one's 28. I'm just weird like that. Okay, so now I fill in so I can figure out whether to use sine, cosine, or tangent. You might want to write at the top of your paper, some old hippie caught another hippie doing what?
Tripping on acid.
Yes.
Acid.
Soka-toa. Sounds like you hurt your toe and you got to go soak a toe.
No.
Yeah, I said
Okay. Okay.
you hurt your toes.
Soka-toa. Okay. What is this side across from the right angle? Hypotenuse. So that goes with H. What is the X? Is that the opposite or the adjacent? Adjacent. Yes. Remember, your angle is always made up of the adjacent side and the hypotenuse side. So that's my adjacent. I do not have an O. Which one of these is A and H?
The middle one.
The middle one. Cosine. COS. What do I write next to COS?
32.
32 equals, I have to put A over H. That's the rules. X over 13. X is up high. That's how we know to multiply. What button do you type in the calculator, or what do you type in the calculator first?
32 first, right?
No.
No, it's 13.
13, the number by the X first.
Time code.
13 first. 13 times cos 32. 11. It's 11. We can just leave it at 11. 11.02. Looks like 11 to me.
Whoa, what the heck?
Wait, what's the wait on?
Okay, the adjacent side is always the adjacent, and the hypotenuse always make up the angle.
I thought the adjacent was the shorter side.
No, no. Adjacent can be long, short. It just can't be the hypotenuse. So if I look at this one, let's look at the 55. Uh-oh. No hypotenuse. That makes it. So I already know I'm going to have to use tan because there's no hypotenuse. I already know that.
May I go to the restroom?
Yes, you may. Okay, yeah. What is this side right here called?
Option.
Opposite. So when it goes directly opposite that angle, that's the opposite side. So my X is opposite, my adjacent is 4. So I know I have to use tan. What do I write next to tan?
55
55.
equals.
I have to do O over A.
Wait, what'd you do? So would it be
X over 4.
X over 4 still?
Yes, because you have to put O over A. TOA, tripping on acid.
Wait,
Not tripping acid on, tripping on
Does
acid.
it change if it's got like a measurement, like 4 centimeters?
No,
Do you need to put that on the
no, I'm not worried about that. X is up high, that's how we know to multiply. What number do you type in the calculator first? 4. 4 times tan 55. 4 times tan 55. 5 point, I'd say 5.7. Okay, number 3. What is this side called?
hypotenuse?
Hypotenuse. And what is this side right here called?
The short leg.
That's the adjacent, because remember that angle is made up of the adjacent side and the hypotenuse side. So the x is the adjacent, it's not opposite, it's adjacent.
That's
Okay, which one? Yeah, that's cosine 55 equals, I have to put a over h. What over what?
X
X over 20.
X is up high, that's how we know too. So what do I type in the calculator?
20 times cosine.
Whoops. 20 times cosine what? 55? 11.5. All right. What is this side? That 15. Hypotenuse. What is the x?
Adjacent.
Nope.
Oh.
The O.
Opposite, yeah. X is the opposite. We do not have an adjacent. Remember, the adjacent side and the hypotenuse always make up the angle. I don't have anything on adjacent. Okay, so which one do I use if I have an O and an H? Sin. Sine 28. What over what? X over 15. X is up high. Multiply. How do I type in the calculator?
15 times sine 28.
Sine, what was the angle? 28, thanks. 7.
You're going too fast.
Oh, okay.
Like, are there any ones on here where the X is on the bottom?
okay.
Yeah, probably. 7 will be. 6 will be, because the hypotenuse is x. 8 will be. Remember, if x is on bottom, you divide.
I got a question. How do you know which one's gonna be on top?
Like, if you have sine, opposite has to be on top.
Oh, no.
If you have cosine, adjacent has, yes. So that's why you got to remember, some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Okay, I've got one other type of problem to show you. Sometimes we don't know the angle. So, if you click on over to the next page, do you see how all the angles are x? All the thetas are x. So I need to show you how to do that. So if we don't know the angle, there's something different we got to do. So I'm going to work a couple and then we'll look at your assignment. So notice on all of these, the theta is x.
When's this paper due?
Tomorrow. So all these, the theta is x. Theta is x. We'll have class time though, Nathan. It'll be okay. Theta is x. Is everybody cool with that? Okay. So some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. What do I notice about this? There's no hypotenuse. That makes it 10. Okay. So I already know there's no hypotenuse. Now you got to figure out which side's the opposite side, which side's the adjacent side. So what is the 9? Opposite. What's the adjacent? 3. When we do these equations, I put the angle always next to the sine, cosine, or tangent. This time the angle is x. Tan x equals, guys, up here. This is different. Nathan, this is different. Pay attention. Okay, tan x, I have to put O over A. What's O and A? 9 over 3. Now let me show you how to type it in the calculator if you don't know the angle.
Reverse it.
So if you don't know the angle, do you see above the sine, cosine, and tangent how there's sine -1, cosine -1, tan -1?
Hit the second button.
Yes. So if you don't know the angle, you got to push the second button. So I'm going to do second tan, and it should say tan -1. Then you hit your N over D button. What are my? 9 over 3. So I put 9 over 3, and then it gives me the angle. 71.6 degrees. 71.6 degrees. Let me do another one. So I don't know the angle. What's this 20 called? Hypotenuse. What's the 16? Adjacent, yes. Adjacent side, I don't have an opposite. No opposite. Which one is adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine. Cosine, what do I write next to cosine? X. I have to put A over H. Rosie, put your phone away. Pay attention. What's A and H?
Cos.
What is my A and H? 16 over 20. If I don't know the angle, what button do I push in the calculator first?
The delete button.
No. What do I push? Second cosine, then just hit the N over D button to give you that fraction. I've got 16 over 20, 16 over 20, 36.9 degrees.
So that's what you do if you have to.
Yes. So on this page, do you guys see that all your thetas are X?
15 minutes.
We do? Okay, let's get through this. Let's do a couple, and then I'll show you how to do the very last problems. We will have some class time tomorrow, but I have another worksheet for you tomorrow too.
Is it as long as this one?
Do what?
Is it as long as this one?
No.
Alright.
Okay, what is this side across from the right angle? Hypotenuse. So my 15 is my hypotenuse.
Is it adjacent?
What's the 11.3? Is that the opposite side or the adjacent side?
Adjacent. It's
Adjacent. Why is it not the opposite? The opposite goes like all the way opposite. Like, yeah. Okay, so it's 11.3. So I'm just gonna have to squeeze in my equation over here. So which one is A and H? Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Which one's A and H? Cosine. Cosine X. Do you know why I put an X there?
Because the angle.
Okay. A over H, what over what?
11.3.
11.3
Over
over 15.
15. Second cosine. And over D, 11.3 over 15. By the way, if you accidentally put 15 on top, your calculator will give you an error. Because your calculator knows on cosine that the hypotenuse has to be the longest side. So if you don't have the longest side on bottom, it's going to say, ooh, you got an error. 41.1. Let's go to number 3. What's this side? Hypotenuse.
24.
24. What is the 12?
Opposite.
Opposite. Good. Don't have
Oh,
adjacent.
number 3.
Yeah, I'm doing number 3. So what?
Sin.
Yep, sin. Sin X, sine X. I always think that sounds like nose spray. Sine X.
Equals 12 over 24.
12 over 24. By the way, if you ever want to reduce that to 1/2, you get the same answer. Just FYI, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yes, you can. So second sine, 12 over 24. Second
30.
sine, 12 over 24. It would be 30 degrees. That would make it a 30, 60, 90 if the short leg is half the anyway. So 30.
Can you do number
Yep.
12?
12 on this side?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or like one of those last
Yes.
ones.
Here, let me scroll it down a little. Number 12. So theta is X. Oh, look what I noticed. No hypotenuse. That makes it tan. Tan X. What is the 4?
It's the opposite.
Opposite. So that means 5 is the adjacent. Make sure you do TOA. Tripping on acid. What's the O? 4 over 5. So make sure it's TOA. Second tan. Second tan. 4 over 5.
38.659.
Yep. So let's say 38.7. Okay, on this whole bottom section, you're just using the second button. So like this says like that's second sine 0.86. So you'll do second sine 0.86. Number 2, second sine 5 over 8. This whole thing you'll do second cosine. This whole side you'll do second tan. That's it. So, and you just type in the numbers. Second tan, 0.53. Second tan, 2. Second tan, 4.6. So you're just typing it in the calculator, giving me those answers. I think I got a couple jokes.
They're already left.
Okay, so, oh yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. So what have I learned? Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. If X is on bottom, divide. If X is up high, multiply. If X is the angle, use the second button. Why didn't Sign and Tan go to the party? Just cause, yeah. And this is probably kind of bad. But out of confession, priest, tell me your sin. Opposite over hypotenuse. But I know, that's why I was like, that's kind of bad, because it's cocaine.
Satan's tongue. Which is kind of true.
Cocaine cola.
What is Belsama? Ask your healthcare provider.
Oh,
Perfect.